So what we're doing here is just marking out the baseboard. As you can see here, we've got our centre line, and the line width across here is 140, and to the edge it's 80 on both sides. So what we're going to do now is place the linear bearings on those lines approximately, but we're actually going to use the edge to find our centres, and we know that these bearing shafts are 8mm, so we just have to subtract half that off the edge. They'll bring us to 76. So what we'll do is, we'll come in until we line up 76 at both ends, and then we'll position that, and then what we're going to do is just transfer punch the mark. And we've also got our starting lines here that we have to line up on each end as well. So for our second linear bearing, we're still going to use the same edge, so we keep it all parallel, which you need for this situation. So measuring to the second line, we know that second line is 220. So again, halving the diameter of the shaft and bringing that to the line that brings it to 216, and we do that at both ends until we get that lined up and on the starting marks, and then we can center punch those ones as well. So what we've got is a 4.5mm drill. We've got our holes right positions marked. Now that's 0.5 mm bigger than the actual machine bolts that are going through, so we're going to drill those and then check it all. We've finally assembled the base, so that base will actually slide up and down on the rail system. We've got our spacer blocks in, our linear bearings in, and then you've got the base itself. Now that's all been referenced from this edge, so the measurements to there have been checked in 3 places, and the measurements from that edge to here have been checked in 3 places as well. These are now parallel and they're square to the board, and on the other side, turn it over, you can see that we've countersunk all our securing screws, or machine screws, and now we've got to mount that to the main base. We've now got the table put onto the base, and we've now put on the rail supports, or the end supports, on both ends. And what we're going to do now is line these up with reference to this edge, so it's all centered in parallel. Alright, so what we're doing now is just drilling the holes through. Now this is 30mm ply. These are for the linear rail system, so we're just putting the holes through for them. Right, the next stage is to put the M5 machine bolts through, and as you can see here, we're using a fender washer, just to spread the load on the timber. But the problem we have is that when you do that and you put these bolts through, we only have about 3mm of thread poking above the timber, and we still have to put the linear support on there, and then you've got a washer, a spring washer, and a nut. So what we need to do is to countersink the other side by 10mm. As I said before, the actual machine bolt that's going through there, or machine screw, is actually 5mm. We've put a 6mm hole in. So what we'll do is put this back through on the drill press and use that as our guide to centre. And once we've got that centred on the drill press, then we'll come in with our Forstner bit, and that is 22mm in diameter. The washer is 20mm, so that gives us a little bit of free play. So the first step is to put our 6mm drill bit in. So that's the one that we actually use to do the holes, as I said earlier. And like I said, we're just going to use this as a centering bit. So what I'll do now is bring the board over to the drill press. I'll just use that initial hole that we put through for the machine screw, and I'll be able to hold that centered like that. And now I'll just put some clamps on. We've got this centered in the hole. We've got our 2 clamps on to hold the board flat onto the drill press table. Now I'll just change bits over to our Forstner bit. So what I'm doing now is just bringing the Forstner bit so it sits on timber that we're going to be cutting through, and if I tighten that up there, that would be your stop position. So what I'm going to do now is keep that down, just adjust that up to 10mm and lock that down. Now that'll allow us to just travel vertically down 10mm. Turn on the drill bit, come to 10. Stop at there. So just a trick that may be useful on the Forstner or Forstner bit, whichever way you want to pronounce it. I'm actually using this top edge here as the guide. So each time I set this up, I clamp it to that same position. So that means each time I bring this down and start cutting, I'll always cut at 10mm depth. So as you can see here, we've got the finished product. So our holes are countersunk, and now I can put the fender washer and machine screws through, and I'll show you the other side in a second. Now we cut these with the Forstner bit, but we could have also used a number of other bits to do exactly the same type of hole, but I just find that these give you a better result. We've now brought the machine screw through high enough. What will go on is basically a washer, a spring washer, and in this situation we're going to be using lock nuts, so now we can get those started.